Okay, I'm back here up in Smuggler's Notch again. Gonna do a better job shooting a video that I shot here last year, which actually went pretty damn well. A video on one of two videos I shot in the area about Pinguicula vulgaris, the common butterwort, which is incredibly rare in New England, and widespread, but needs a very specific niche habitat. The habitat of which we're gonna go up to. Before we do that, I also need to cover quite a bit of the ferns that I missed last year. I was here. I was rushed. It was later, much later in the day. I was a little bit nervous, and really, you come out to the cliff habitats like this, yeah, you've got your cool saxifrages and saxifrage adjacent genera, like your Micranthus virginiensis around here too. But really, the ferns and I guess the Pinguicula are kind of the highlights. Jesus, got buzzed by something of this particular habitat. So this is one that I think I actually did get. I actually did get this up on. Ow! Okay, that is a stinging nettle. I thought these things couldn't sting you. I thought Laportia didn't sting. I guess I stand corrected. I guess you can sting Laportia canadensis, son of a bitch. Oh, on your upper, I see. Very few and far between stinging. It's injecting you with serotonin. Actually, doesn't really hurt that bad. It was just kind of jarring. Anyway, it feels kind of nice after a while. Anyway, this is one such fern. This is Polystichum braunii. This is Braun's holly fern, or it is the hybrid that occurs between Polystichum braunii and the much more widespread Polystichum acrosticoides, so-called Christmas fern. So the leaflets there, you've got almost like a little pinnule. I don't know what you'd call that, off the rachis, and very distinctive leaflet shape there. Of course, the sori are going to be born in the same spot, the terminal end of the frond, where it kind of curls in on itself. And then you look at the fronds here, see how they're a bit more dissected, all right? That's going to be, one of your key differentiating factors. This fern grows a little bit smaller. Polystichum acrosticoides is just generally, an inhabitant of rich woodlands versus this species, which I believe needs a little bit more of the cliffside habit. And then, of course, it's going to have the sori on the terminal ends of the leaves. Not so down near the basal end, only really at the apical portion, kind of pittering out. Maybe this is the hybrid. We'll have to see. I'm not entirely sure. Definitely, though, not Polystichum acrosticoides. Definitely, at least partially, dealing with some Polystichum braunii DNA, some Polystichum braunii juice in their holly fern. I guess because some idiot thought that that it looked like a holly leaves. I don't know. Maybe a European species of holly. I'm assuming it was a European that named it. In any case, we're gonna go up there. Try not to get spooked in the rock field. Try to spend a little bit more time. Last year I was all jazzed over the Pinguicula, and then the next day I actually went to a different area, not on a cliff, and was able to find much more of it. Well, I guess technically on a cliff, but I was able to find a much more healthy population that was also in flower. So this population, I suspect, will be done flowering, because I was here 2 days. I was here almost to the day last year, and they were all done up in this population. I was much higher elevation when I got them. In flower. Yeah, look at, you can see the little where the Laportia, where the wood nettle got me. You wily bastard. Cool plant though. Does not hurt nearly as much as actual Urtica dioica, the actual stinging nettle, but we'll avoid it. We'll avoid it for now. Anyway, without further ado, let's go see what's going on up in the cliff. Let's talk about some ferns. Oh, that's just sad. It's actually pretty sad. So up there is where we're going, and right here is two of the rare species that grow up there that have tumbled down and settled themselves right here. This is just a chunk of soil, not anchored into anything. Hopefully this will reroot itself into the ground, and it'll, maybe it'll survive here. But look, you've got this stuff right up here. This is a sedge. This is Trichophorum cespitosum. This is Alpine deer grass. You can see it's just starting to go to flower there. Real neat sedge, real rare in New England. Well, it's an Alpine plateau dweller. So this is like this is a damn near abundant keystone species up in the Arctic. And as we all know, you move up in elevation at a lower latitude, conditions start to, the conditions will start to become more like the Arctic. Now, I should explain this. I have actual numbers to explain this now. You can go hundreds of miles north and experience roughly the same change in climate as you would just by going up a couple, 1,000 feet in elevation. So New England is on a gradient between sea level and 6,200 feet. All right, keep that in the back of your head real quick. Sea level New England is, coastal, damn near subtropical in certain pockets of Connecticut and like southeastern Mass, maybe Rhode Island too. Coastal, never really gets that hot or that cold. You have that climate mediated by, mediated by the ocean. That subtropical is really just like inland southern New England, where you don't really get a lot of snow, but you get a lot of moisture. You get those warm, those really, really hot summers, and pretty much just like warm, mild winters. You move on up from there, you get the cool temperate and cold temperate. Most of New England's cool temperate, cold temperate. You're in Worcester, Massachusetts, Manchester, New Hampshire, pretty much anywhere north or west of Boston. You're in a cool temperate or cold temperate climate. Continental, sorry, not temperate, continental. Different climate than Europe. Europe is temperate, we're continental. Believe it or not, New England, especially like up in the mountains, like as long as you're not in like the Champlain Valley, which is where we're going after this, or like Champlain Valley, Connecticut River Valley, or the Cape, where there's rain shadows and there's coastal mitigation of precipitation. If you're very, very damp, like the White Mountains and Green Mountains get way more moisture, or not way more, but considerably more moisture than even like the UK. Like Europe does not get as much moisture as the eastern US, rain at all, and when it does, it's mostly in the winter. I digress. What I was actually trying to get to is climate mediated by elevation. So the isotherm, that's your band of elevation, your band of temperature difference, I think shifts by, it's like 0.5 degrees Celsius, and I'll do the math down below. I'll do the math and I'll make sure I'm correct down below. 0.5 degrees Celsius for every band of like latitude you go. So for every like 160 miles you move, your isotherm is only, your average mean temperature is only shifting by half a degree centigrade. That's not substantial. That's why, like Montreal, Quebec, and Boston, Massachusetts don't have two dissimilar climates. Montreal, Quebec's sitting low, and like the St. Lawrence waterway, and Boston's at sea level. That's why Burlington, Vermont doesn't get, Burlington, Vermont, it'll be raining. You go 30 minutes out of town and it's snowing. You know what I mean? Because the elevation gradient. That same isotherm shift for every 1,000 feet in elevation, it's like 3.5 degrees Celsius. So, you go to like coastal Maine, you go to Portland, Maine, and it could be like 85 degrees, or go inland, go to like, Kennebunk Plains, go inland off the sea a little bit. It'll be like 90 degrees. You just drive due west, not even that much further north, up into the White Mountains, 4,000 degrees up. It's probably going to be like 75. Mount Washington never sees days above like 72 degrees. Typically, it's getting below freezing most nights of the year, with the exception of like this time of year. In fact, last I checked, the snowfields still hadn't melted. So these, relatively, and I know everybody from out west is just like, hills right now. You guys got to understand prominence. We're hundreds of, okay, so this is where it does make a difference. We're not just 100 miles north. I think we're like 500 miles north of the northernmost point in Colorado right now. Colorado is a huge state that I think itself covers 500 miles at least north to south. So, I don't really care that 6,000, 5,000 feet doesn't seem like high elevation to you. Denver, Colorado is already sitting at 6,000 feet. Look east from Denver. Is that mountainous? No. You look around in New England. Is it mountainous? Yes. It's called topographic prominence, and there is still a shift in elevation. Colorado's elevation gradient, I think, goes from like 4,000 feet to 14,000 feet. New England's elevation gradient goes from sea level to 6,200 feet, okay? So you get, yes, respectively, you do get that 10,000 feet of elevation gradient out there in Colorado. I'll double check all this down below. We're still dealing with, more than half of that. We're dealing with 2/3 of that in New England, okay? Understand elevation gradient as well as lump sum elevation. That's why you get a lot of, not a lot, but a number of Rocky Mountain species disjunct out here in New England. Trichophorum cespitosum being one such species that does occur in the Rockies, at least the northern Rockies, and also out here. Also in that category, and honestly worthy of its own video segment, you got Pinguicula vulgaris, which I saw here, and I said we wouldn't see it in bloom, but you know, those are my odds, you know. So for the unindoctrinated, I'll put up the 2 videos that I already did on this. This is a carnivorous plant, takes advantage of these scoured, exposed cliffs up above us. Again, this chunk just fell down here. This wasn't growing here. This broke off and tumbled down here and then just kept growing. God knows for how long. This flower is almost done. You go up another 1,500 feet, they'll still be blooming. But down here, they were done last year. Beautiful little purple flower. It's got the nectar spur on it, you know. Where's the nectar spur? Oh, the nectar spur, is it? Where is it? Hang on a second. Oh, the nectar spur got nipped off, it looks like. Oh, that's crazy. And then these sticky little fly paper leaves. You see there's a guy right there that got stuck. A little buggy. So these are everywhere up there and up on the top of this hill behind us. Here's one that's a little bit smaller. You know, again, Trichophorum cespitosum and Pinguicula vulgaris. Probably can find these in the Rockies. Trichophorum cespitosum is limited by temperature and moisture regimes. The Pinguicula, here's some of the fruits on the Pinguicula too. Pinguicula vulgaris needs very caustic, basic, calcareous soil to grow in. So you get a ton of exposed cliffs in certain parts of New England. And it's also, you know, it's also a cold weather species itself. You also need that substrate. You need the basic high pH soil as well for it to grow on. Okay, so I'm killing my battery. I didn't even expect to run into these two. This is supposed to be a fern-based episode, but we squeezed an orchid into the last fern-based episode, so we squeezed a carnivorous plant into this fern-based episode. I got to give you guys little treats, you know, just little treats. Yeah, God damn. You know, you come up to spots like this. Oh, nice columbine. You can hike all this way up to see a columbine, or you can just buy them at Home Depot. Anyway, come all the way up to sketchy areas like this to show you things that you probably never heard of, and that 99 out of 100 people wouldn't care even if they knew it was growing right here. Finally, got my last New England Asplenium species. Asplenium viride. The green spleenwort. Oh God, another one of these Asplenium that's common as chips out in Europe, or out in Europe or in other regions of the world. You know, nice patch of it growing up here. Typical of Asplenium, it's growing in a shady, calcareous rock crevice. So this one of all the Asplenium, this is one of the ones like Rudimentaria that you do get overseas in Europe. This is probably the furthest north. This is probably the most northernly restricted, I should say, species we have in New England. You know, Asplenium montanum, it was an Appalachian endemic reaching the northern extent of its range here. And then viride is, a circumboreal species, so is Rudimentaria. But more specifically, viride is reaching the southern edge of its range here in New England. Flip this guy over. The sorry, while not well developed, are still those trademark Asplenium lines. Been getting this thing confused with a bunch of the Woodsias, you know. Likes it cold, likes it, I guess not exposed, but elevated, open, elevated, and calcareous. And as soon as I got up here and I found this, I had somebody tell me, oh, you know, you can find it growing on the boulders. You can find it growing on the boulders down below too. You just might have to look a little bit longer. And I'm just like, I've been up here for like an hour. Spent more time up here than I did last year. I really hate it up here, but there's some important shit growing up here. This too is one I really should have covered in the past. This right here is Saxifraga oppositifolia. At least I believe it to be Saxifraga oppositifolia, purple saxifrage. That's what would make sense to me considering it's got opposite leaves. This one I saw in bloom. I got a really lousy picture of it, unfortunately. I'll have to confirm because there's more than one Saxifraga known from this area. All Saxifraga and the actual Saxifrage genus are super restricted alpine cliff plants here in New England, well being common as chips in the Arctic and in certain areas of Europe where you do get a surplus of that exposed calcareous bedrock. There's a nice other little patch of it right there. Saxifraga, definitely a Saxifraga. You get a few species in New England, all of them really rare. I guess some of them more so than others, but generally, for the most part, inaccessible. So that's Asplenium viride. I'll probably show you that. There's another little patch of it down there. How's the story looking on this one? And not as far along. You get a late start here, you know. They get a late start. Look what they're contending with. You know, it's beautiful. Oh, you got a stole over there. I would be worried. I mean, this is technically on the side of a trail, but I mean, who the hell's really gonna come up here? Some of the species you get around here are a little bit commercially exploitable, from what I hear. These are not any of them. Those are more of there's some other stuff that grows around here. I shouldn't even be talking about. You know what? Don't worry about it. Don't come up here, okay? But we're in. I already said we're in Smuggler's Notch. There's a million of these cliff faces and gullies in here. I get nervous. I like to be as specific as I can, but I have to respect. I don't want to blow the spot up too much. So there you go. Asplenium viride. Gotta get this thing over my head. Saxifraga, oppositifolia. Already blew. We were here over a month ago on the other side of the thing, and they were already done. Just barely wrapping up. With maybe one or two purple flowers still hanging on the thing. Purple Saxifrage. I think actually this would be purple Saxifrage, because I think all the other ones bloom later. They bloom later in the year. Some kind of Woodsia, maybe ilvensis, maybe glabella. I'll have to figure it out. To complement the Polystichum braunii we saw before. And honestly, I mean, I would personally love to get down off of this thing, but down at the base, we might find one or two other interesting things. So you get your cool Woodsia, ilvensis, or glabella. Alpine is supposed to be in here. It's one of the three. Does this one have the little hairs? Does this one do have little hairs? Okay, so this one's got little hairs. So this one's not glabella. This is alpina. This would likely be alpina or ilvensis. I'll figure it out. Hang on one second. Actually, let me. I'm in a good spot right here. I can figure this. Okay, so this guy here is likely Woodsia ilvensis, one of the 4 or so wood ferns. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's weird. Look, when you hold it like that. It's interesting. One of the, Woodsia, genus of cliff ferns. Woodsia, one of the common ones I did a video. It was in a video earlier this year. But anyway, I think we're going to head down off this thing. I'm not going to end the video just yet, but I'm sufficiently sketched out. But there you go. You got your carnivorous plant. You got, 2 or 3 rare ferns already. You got your cool Saxifrage. And hopefully you get some shots of the habitat. You also have Houstonia caerulea, which will generally grow, in your lawn, and it grows here. Beautiful plant. Likes it open, likes it exposed. Let me put my phone away. We'll say goodbye to Asplenium viride. I'm gonna put the gif of Thanos putting the, what's that? I don't really follow Marvel or superhero movies, but it's Thanos when he's putting the gemstone. The last one I think he has to get, and he gets all the power. I don't know what he does, but he gets all the power. That's me seeing finally the 6 species of Asplenium native to New England. We got them all in a season, thank God. Fascinating ferns, and I mean, I can safely say I never have to come back up here again until I'm bored 10 years from now and I want to reshoot a bunch of these episodes perhaps. In any case, we're gonna hop on down before my leg falls asleep. I don't think I would die if I fell down here, but I would definitely probably break a collarbone, and we don't want to do that, okay? So we'll check back in a little bit. I got to give a shout out, an abbreviated shout out, because I actually ate up a ton of my battery up here. You get fantastic reception, but Vermont, even in the backwoods areas, you get really good reception in Vermont. You can't say the same for New Hampshire or Maine. Abbreviated shout out to Diervilla lanicera, the so-called fly honeysuckle in the family Caprifoliaceae, but not actually that closely related to the genus Lanicera. I was wrong. In a previous video, I commented on Trichophorum, which looks nothing like honeysuckle. This actually does kind of look like honeysuckle, on a Triosteum, probably being distantly related in its own, subfamily or whatever, from actual Lonicera. I was wrong. They are closely related. This, however, is distantly related to actual honeysuckle in the genus Lonicera. Grows up here on these nice sketchy Arctic refugia cliffs, and it does just fine growing in my backyard too. Really, just kind of like Solidago, kind of like Houstonia, kind of like that. Can't really see it, but that's a Thalectrum over there. Really a jack of all trades. Some of these plants, so really just exceptional, exceptional at adapting to just about anything people throw at them. Lovely to see here, lovely to see planted in your yard. Anyway, we're gonna head down. We're gonna do a little walk up through the notch and see if we can check out some of the stuff along. There's some nice little peripheral trails that aren't nearly as difficult to mess with as this one is. You see, let that be a lesson to you guys. Just because you're off the sketchy shit doesn't mean you won't get yourselves fucked up coming down the most basic. You get careless. I was freaked out up there, and then I come down into with talus, and it just slashed up my hand. It's actually not that bad. I skinned myself, so it looks bad, but it's really not that bad. I think I caught myself on some sort of one of the various brambles growing here. I'll survive. Just looks kind of gnarly, so be careful. Don't ever stop being careful. I don't get any sort of sense of machismo out of pretending like coming to these places is no big deal. That's why I don't know if I really say it blew up. I wanted to leave a mean comment. I chose not to. Somebody commented on the camera handling. You come up to spots like this, all right? You come up to spots like this and try and carry a gimbal. I can't even carry my backpack through places like this. I don't know. Maybe you're a good mountain climber. I literally do not want to make assumptions, but for me, it's a little difficult. Anyway, I'm gonna trudge on. I'll be okay. Trust me. All right. Well, that took substantially longer than intended, and I didn't even find what I was looking for. But that's okay. I know I can come back and can always try again. That's the nice thing. You can usually always try again in an area like this. I don't think they'll hopefully not be coming through to develop this. I never thought I'd say this, but the state parks might be safer than national parks. Usually state parks are not nearly as well run as national parks, but the one thing that I really felt prideful of as an American, which is our national park system, is now in jeopardy. So we'll have to take it where we can get it, I guess. Just make everything worse, so that a small number can go up. But whatever, we'll cut it off there. Gonna try and squeeze one more in today. Had a whole other slew of target species for tomorrow, and I didn't even think that necessarily I was gonna come look for this plant today. I didn't even think I was gonna come all the way up this way regardless. But we're gonna go grab a couple beers. It's the solstice right now. What is it, the 20th or 21st? It's the solstice. I think either yesterday was the longest day or today's the longest day. So we'll have a few more hours of sunlight, even though it's almost 5. Put over to a different part of the state, set up camp, and then tomorrow begins anew at a whole different site that I have a lot of hope for. So we'll cut this one off for now. Probably get a quick one in at another spot. Completely different habitat that we're going to be poking around in there too as well. But these gullies are impressive. I'll give them that. Very impressive. We'll let that be your moment of zen.